Rock Climbing in America is an unscripted movie, although I did walk up here a few feet and then walk back so I could catch this piece of rock climbing in America as it came into view around the corner. For example, I should probably be in wide angle mode right now, or perhaps I am, I'm not sure, but I think I might be able to edit that out later, or edit it in, or whatever you need to do. Rock climbing in America is completely spontaneous, so I suppose the movie should be also. There's still no one climbing on this piece of rock climbing in America, but it's only been a few minutes. Rock climbing in America is brought to you by whitethorn, willows, junipers, dead pine trees, sage, granite, mountains, sky, clouds, empty spaces, and a lot of other stuff like glaciers and things like time. I don't know what just happened there, the camera just turned off. But I was saying that it's a very psychological thing saying that you climbed a V7, because a lot of people out there haven't climbed a V7 and they'll think that you're bragging. But if you don't say that you climbed a V7, they're going to want to know what you climbed, and then you're going to tell them, and then they're going to think that you were trying to be humble. Because that's important for rock climbing in America, to be humble, because we care a lot about being strong, and we all know that's a little bit weird, because rock climbing in America isn't really about being strong. It's more about rock climbing in America. So I have made a movie before, but it was only about 45 seconds long. That thing about the lizard is good. This lizard is definitely rock climbing in America. I could put that on a t-shirt. Sort of a neon colored t-shirt and tank tops with the silhouette of a lizard and the words, "This lizard is definitely rock climbing in America." That would be a good way to make money off of rock climbing in America, because I don't think the movie will make any money. Right now, it's entirely unsupported, at least partially because I just thought of it, but probably more because the climbing companies, I don't think, are really that interested in the movie this is going to be. They're more interested in rock climbing in America, and I think that if I had a little bit more practice holding the camera and editing and saying whether a route that had been climbed was 513 or 14 or 15 or 16 or something like that, then I might get some money for rock climbing in America. But I don't know anyone that climbs 516 and 515 or 514, and I don't think I'll ever climb those grades either. So I'll have to make t-shirts about the lizard. I think that's my best bet. This lizard is definitely rock climbing in America. And make a good tank top with neon colors. You might be wondering why I'm not showing my face, and might be thinking that I'm hiding behind the camera. Well, I'm not, but maybe I am a little bit. I'm just a little bit ashamed because I'm in my uniform, and my uniform can be pretty intimidating sometimes, and I don't want you guys to be intimidated by me. So I guess I'll come out in the open so you can see what I'm talking about. So, can you see me? Hi sir, how's it going today? Yeah, great. Glad to see you're having a good hike. It's beautiful out here, isn't it? Yeah, I know, I love it. It's amazing. Well, it looks like you're trying to get on your way, so I won't delay you very long. I just wanted to just see if I could get the last name on your permit so I can make a note here of what your itinerary is. Uh-huh. Okay, you're doing the High Sierra Trail? Cool. Awesome. Have you ever done it before? Oh, you're gonna have a great time. It's beautiful. So, that's what my job ends up looking like. I don't usually talk this loud. I'm just trying to talk loud enough so the camera hears it. The fact of the matter, though, is that I'm not always terribly proud to wear the badge and the uniform. I think a lot of people have bad experiences with rangers climbing in America. A lot of rangers seem to have a problem with climbing in America, especially in Yosemite. A lot of Yosemite rangers have given me a problem with me trying to climb in America. So I have mixed feelings about rangers and uniforms. But I guess they're all part of climbing in America. And anyway, not all rangers are out there to give you a ticket for marijuana. Some of them are just out there to be part of climbing in America. But I'm gonna get back behind the camera now because it does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm not sure if any of that sound is gonna come through. Alright, here goes nothing. Hey there, I have kind of a funny question to ask you guys. Yeah, no problem. Would you mind if I took a dip naked? I don't have any extra underwear to spare. Don't worry about it, dude. No worries. Okay, cool. Right on. Yeah, cool. And then one more question. So I'm making a movie called Rock Climbing in America, and I'm trying to interview people about that. Would you guys be interested in doing an interview? Yeah, sure. All right, cool. Definitely. Yeah, I've never done one before, so it'll be fun. Okay, cool. All right. Cool, thanks. That went better than expected. Yeah. So I suppose before going on much further, I should have a slight little confession. Many of you may be aware of the existence of a book called Trout Fishing in America by Richard Brautigan. And Brautigan, I think, means another sausage in German. Anyway, trout fishing in America has precious little to do with the purported subject matter, and equally rock climbing in America will have precious little to do with trout fishing in America. So I feel okay using the title. The only real similarity probably It'd be in the semantics, or, you know, in the water, the existence of water, as far as that goes, and maybe swimming on occasion. So woo! Oh, it feels so good. Oh my god. Whew. Oh, it's cold.
Yeah.
Hamilton's a lot warmer.
Yeah.
Oh. Now that's rock climbing in America. Whew. Whew. All right, cool. We're shooting. Hey. So the lens cap is still on. Do you guys want me to take it off? Or...
Sure. Yeah. I don't.
Okay.
I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm taking it off. All right. Could you guys state your names for the record, and feel free to make up names.
Sure.
I don't care.
My name's Ryan Duane. I'm from Santa Barbara, California, and I'm 22 years old.
Cool.
I'm Courtney Vaccaro. I'm 21, also from Santa Barbara.
Right on. This is your guys' first time in the High Sierra up here?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Cool. Okay, so you know, you guys you're not much of climbers necessarily, or
He's
maybe a little bit?
wanted to get into it, but never
Okay.
really had the opportunity, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In college, I climbed the Flatirons a bit.
Oh, cool.
So I mean,
So you were out in Boulder?
Yeah. So kind of some more basic
Uh-huh.
climbing, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of an expensive endeavor.
It is,
So,
isn't it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
trying to get the money to get ropes and shoes and
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, like, I don't know, most of my friends, I guess, weren't really super into it, so that kind of was a hindrance as well.
Yeah.
I'm also scared shitless of heights.
Uh-huh.
So,
Now, okay, so a lot of people feel like they are paralyzed or terrified of heights, but the thing is, everyone's afraid of heights. I've been climbing for 14 years. I'm still afraid, you know, in vertical situations. The question is that a crippling fear? Like, when you get high, can you not move?
I don't know. I mean, like,
You haven't really put yourself in that position.
yeah, like, I haven't, I
Uh-huh.
don't know, like, I guess of, like,
How were you on the Flatirons? Were you like...
yeah, like, I
shaky?
was pretty nervous, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't, like, crippling. It was more of, like, just focusing my fear to get through it.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely done some, I don't know, like up in Canyonlands and stuff, like hiked on some pretty sketchy ledges where, I don't know, and like Angel's Landing and stuff, like I guess that's, you know, for some people that's like their limit. They can't even do Angel's Landing.
Right.
I was like fine on something like that, and I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's not a crippling fear. I
more
think
just
if I,
mental?
yeah, like I think if I put myself in the situation, then I'd be able to get through it, and it takes some getting used to,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's part of the draw, right? Is
Yeah,
kinda overcoming
totally.
that fear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to do kind of like a Rorschach test. You know what that is, with like the ink blot, and you say the first word that comes to mind.
Okay.
So instead of showing you pictures, I'm just gonna say words, and see what, you know. Just give me the first word. Either of you, it doesn't matter. All right. Honnold,
Alex.
Caldwell,
Tommy.
Free Solo,
Alex Honnold.
Granite,
El Capper or Half Dome.
Lake.
Precipice.
That's right. Cool. What about rock climbing in America?
I think it's an interesting situation. I mean, even though I don't rock climb a bunch, like I
Is this
definitely.
still supposed to be one word?
Hey, you know, there's no format to
Oh,
rock
sorry.
climbing in
Okay.
America. No, you guys are good. Go for it. Just riff.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't really, although I don't like climb too much. I mean, it's definitely a sport that I follow. I wouldn't say like religiously, but like definitely follow it pretty pretty extensively. Like, I'd say I know more than most people that don't climb.
Sure.
And, like, I think it's a pretty interesting situation to see how it's, like, developed, I guess, especially with, like,
Yep.
the relationship between, like, rangers like you and, I don't know, like, you always hear this tension, especially up in Yosemite, you know, with the Camp 4 dudes and,
Yeah.
and all that, and, like, the rangers. And, like, I think when it comes down to it, like, most rangers aren't dicks, like, trying to ruin someone's day. Like,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, they're just trying to have everyone have a good time. And, like, I definitely think some climbers take some unnecessary risks. And, I mean, Dean Potter, that was something super recent. That's a huge tragedy. And, like, you know, there's a ban on base jumping from Yosemite for a reason. Like, and that just kind of proves it. Like, I don't think, like I said, I don't think Park Service or rangers or anyone involved with Park Service is out there to ruin anyone's time. I think it's just general safety precautions. And, like, most of the time when, like, climbers, or it doesn't even matter if it's climbers, backpackers, or whoever go outside of their own risks, I mean, there's usually something that happens. Like, 99% of the time nothing happens, but 1% of the time it does.
Right.
So
I just want to state for the record that I didn't prompt you to start talking about rangers.
no, not at all.
That's just kind of what came up when we talked about rock climbing in America.
Yeah.
I find that very fascinating. I already have started talking about that too. So, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I think the relationship's definitely gotten better over the years, though. I mean, especially in like nowadays where it's becoming more, I don't know, rock climbing is like, I mean, it's a legitimate business at this point.
Yeah.
You see companies like Patagonia and Black Diamond. I mean, Patagonia's, you know, I mean, that's like the blue chip company of the world as far as like social responsibility and I don't know, just pushing like clothing gear forward and not just using slave labor.
Yeah.
So, and like that all revolved around obviously Yvon Chouinard and like rock climbing. So
So
I mean,
you think
it's no longer just this, you know, garage dirtbag type sport anymore,
Yeah.
really.
So do you think the commercialization of rock climbing is a source of good or evil or both?
I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. I think it's good.
Because like you said, Patagonia, you know, they can afford to work on conservation projects and improving labor. And like Doug Tompkins, you know, he made most of his money off of, you know, climbing companies. And
totally.
he's a big philanthropist in South America. So
yeah, and I mean, you're like, you have professional basketball players and football players who are making $15 million a year to pretty much slam their bodies against each other as hard as possible. Whereas like with rock climbing,
right.
I see that much more as a sport than like football. And I grew up playing football, football or soccer or whatever. I mean, like that's what Tommy Caldwell and Kevin Jorgensen did on El Cap is. I mean, that's absolutely. I mean, the world was watching. Like, and that's unbelievable. I mean, that's not like a 1 hour game. That's you know, that's weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's years of training.
Right.
Just dedicating yourself to one thing, and then when it's over, it's like, all right, you know, now what? Like, on to the next thing. You know, it's not the end of it.
So if rock climbing were a creature, would it be in its infancy, its youth, its old age, dying, or already dead? Or not born yet?
I can kind of say it was reborn.
Yeah.
Ooh, reborn. I like that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe it's getting reborn all the time.
Maybe.
Does it have to die to be reborn?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's
just an evolution.
Yeah, I think it's just a constant. I think you're in this flywheel effect of like, I don't know. I guess you'll kind of have, if you know, these periods, these lulls of like, I don't know, years or months or whatever where nothing really happens. But then obviously you get these huge stunts like you know, El Cap, or like when Alex Honnold and Tommy Caldwell did the Fitz Traverse in Patagonia and stuff like that. I mean, I mean, you're obviously going to have these big events, and like, I don't know, I guess you could have a day where like there's not really anything left to do, but I don't know when that's going to happen, you know, like that's...
So that's cool that you're aware of like the Alex Honnold and Tommy Caldwell's Traverse too. You know, that I think got like one iota of the press that the Donwell did. What do you think of that? Which do you think is the bigger step forward in climbing?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as like this, like for the, I mean, I'd say El Cap is bigger for the sport because you're Because now you have all these younger generations, I mean, even like me or, teenagers and stuff that saw that.
Right.
And El Cap that got the press. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that could literally inspire thousands of kids to, start climbing. And then it goes back to the business standpoint of, okay, all of a sudden you have kids buying climbing shoes and buying crash pads and buying ropes and like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I said, you're just getting this flywheel effect of it's just constant growth. It's just exponential growth. So, I mean, I think the Fitz Traverse was pretty fucking gnarly. Excuse my language. I mean, that's just nuts. Like, that's just bonkers.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They're just two totally different climbs. Like, you can't really compare them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, this is pretty unprofessional, but I only have one memory card, and I don't have any idea how much room is on it.
No worries.
And so, I'm gonna stop the interview really short. But thank you guys so much for your thoughts. Maybe the last thing I would say is, would you be interested in starting to rock climb if you found it easier to find like user groups that could help you out, getting started, mentors, gear that was rentable? Things like that.
Like, 100%.
Yeah.
I would love to go, to do that.
I think for the past 6 months, you've become hyper fascinated with it.
Yeah.
So he's definitely been looking into it, and I'd like to join too.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun.
Even more the mountaineering aspect, that's kind of I think where I'd like it to
Sure.
Too, so.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well.
Thanks.
Hey, I hope that comes true for you, and if this turns into a movie, I'll let you know.
For sure. That'd be awesome.
All right. Where's the lens cap?
Yeah.
Oh, they are the real names. That's good. Okay. Well, I'll look you up. Man, that was awesome. Those guys gave such a great interview. I really didn't know what to expect. It was crazy how just on cue when I said, okay, Rorschach test, rock climbing in America, he started talking about Rangers. I mean, I have the Ranger uniform on, so that's probably why, but yeah, it was almost as if it had been scripted. But yeah, those guys were great. I hope I sounded professional. I hope you can hear me and them and all that stuff. I wonder if I need a microphone. I don't know where I'd plug it into the camera, but well, maybe I would need a different camera then too. I hope this is picking up sound. I don't even know if it gets sound. But anyway, yeah, that was incredible. It really is kind of cool about how, that guy knows actually a decent bit about climbing. He knows who Alex Honlove is and Tommy Caldwell, and and he apparently doesn't actually do that much climbing, but he's really wants to get into it. I wonder, what does that mean about rock climbing in America? That there's all these people that really want to get into it, and they already know a lot about it. It's like rock climbing in America is getting kind of big or something. But yeah, I don't know, maybe not, who knows. I mean, maybe he was just an outlier, but anyway, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the rest of the interviews bring. I hope I have the same voice when I'm narrating as I do in the interview, because I kind of feel like I didn't. I feel like I had some sort of interview voice that is different, so I'll try and work on that. So yeah, okay, cool. Rock climbing in America. This stuff here is all part of rock climbing in America too. Sunday, August 23rd. Today I did something absurd, ridiculous, and a little embarrassing. I started trying to make a movie. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just bored, sick of writing, looking for new avenues for artistic expression. I'm calling it rock climbing in America. I have a lot of questions about the subject. For example, why is rock climbing in America completely obsessed? Why is rock climbing in America completely obsessed with the Herculean feats of a few astronomically gifted climbers? I feel like rock climbing in America should be about celebrating and protecting the mountains, and celebrating and protecting climbers. No more, no less. The stories that interest me are the ones about the average climber who finds something special each and every time they go out there and set hand and foot to stone. I don't care so much what grade they are climbing. Why is it that rock climbing in America is so obsessed with strength? What about spirit, passion, curiosity, exploration, conservation, sacrifice, hard work to protect something good? The major companies in the industry know what is good for profit margins. They know what gets people to click, and clicks equal advertisements, and time spent in an online marketplace equals money. Clicks sell, and anyone who pays any attention to the industry knows what makes people click. They want to hear Ondra scream, want to see Hanold battle demons, want to pass judgment on Potter, or pass judgment on people who pass judgment on Potter. Rock climbing in America is out of control, but we can be better. We can get better. We can take rock climbing in America back and restore it to something it once was. But I don't know what it once was. Maybe those people I was interviewing were right. Maybe rock climbing in America is constantly reinventing itself, constantly evolving, constantly experiencing rebirth and growth. It once was John Muir, but the Sierra Club, Access Fund, American Alpine Club, and other conservation organizations have more bargaining power today than they ever did before. And the companies I'm so critical of have more bargaining power, i.e. cash, still. Maybe selling it to the people is how we create a meaningful and potent lobby. Maybe giving the people what they want is more important than telling them what to want. If I sell you a bunch of cigarettes and take all the money and put it into cancer research, maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Something still feels wrong. Alex Honnold soloing Half Dome is not the biggest thing in rock climbing in America. The Dawn Wall is not the biggest thing in rock climbing in America. Adam Ondra sending 515C is not the biggest thing in rock climbing in America. A young man or woman goes out climbing for the first time, feels the alpenglow, sees the lichen, hears the hermit thrush, recalls John Muir's words atop Mount Ritter. These cliff-bound glaciers, seemingly wedged and immovable, are flowing like water and grinding the rocks beneath them. The lakes are lapping their granite shores and wearing them away, and every one of these rills and young rivers is fretting the air into music and carrying the mountains to the plains. Here are the roots of all the life of the valleys, and here more simply than elsewhere is the eternal flux of nature manifested. This young man or woman becomes enamored with the mountains, learns to love the mountains like a brother or sister or mother or father, resolves to fight for mountains to protect them for as long as he or she shall live. That is the biggest story in rock climbing in America. That is the biggest story in rock climbing in America. Anything else is just one more tentacle of the capitalist superstructure, and when the time goes, the mountains will bow to commercialism whenever we bend our will to that cause. Maybe. I don't know. It's just an idea. Rock climbing in America. I remember her well. Must have been about 16 when we met. She was beautiful. I fell in love immediately. At first it was just, wanting to be around rock climbing in America. I didn't have any plans or preconceptions. I'd go to the climbing gym and go bouldering, think about, how I could climb as long as I possibly could. I'd be so worked from rock climbing in America that I'd come out to my car and I couldn't even lift the door handle. I'd grasp the steering wheel with hands frozen as if by rigor mortis, steering with my wrists. Those are the good old days when when we first started dating. Of course, like all things, eventually it changed. I don't know if it was rock climbing in America that changed or me that changed, but everything always changes. And I think we both did the best we could to relegate our differences and stick it out. I kept seeing her more and more, but she didn't feel like she wanted anything to do with me. And for my part, I was still in love with some, classical, fantastic notion of rock climbing in America that didn't really have all that much to do with who she'd become. I'd say at this point we're on the verge of breakup, but I keep finding myself thinking back to the good old days and thinking maybe all the change is in me, not in rock climbing in America, but maybe I'm the one that's changed. After all, when it first started, we were in love and didn't have anything to do with money or work or the kids or anything. But anymore, I'm always thinking about where's rock climbing in America going? Where am I going with rock climbing in America? Where are we going together? What's in it for me? What's in it for us? What can we achieve together? Just doesn't feel right. Maybe if I spend enough time away from rock climbing in America, something of that original spark will rekindle and I'll be able to find myself in her loving arms again. I don't know. But at least they're still beautiful places. And I can go there when I'm dreaming of her, trying to remember what she originally meant to me, or what I originally meant to her, what we meant to one another. Watching the light play off the water, I find myself reflecting on my own frailties and fragilities. I don't know. Maybe this doesn't have anything to do with rock climbing in America at all. Are you out there, rock climbing in America? Do you hear me? I'm trying to get back to you. I'm trying to get back to that flame, that spark that we once had. I'm still in love with you. I just don't know how to express it. The better I got to know rock climbing in America, the more I found myself feeling nostalgic for a time that I had never, in actuality, even experienced. Although I started in a gym climbing boulder problems, I became more and more antiquated as my experience with rock climbing in America went onwards. And I found myself seeking out less of an athletic aspect of things, although I always have enjoyed testing my limits, and more of an adventurous one. And I find more and more frequently that the trajectory of rock climbing in America runs counter to that. Now, I'd like to do a little bit of an experiment here. I have a book called, let's see here, it's called The Climber's Guide to the High Sierra, a Sierra Club tote book by Steve Roper. And it was written not so long ago as you might expect, in 1976, but long enough still to be a valuable tool for understanding some of the ways that rock climbing in America has changed. And while I'm reading all brief sections that I've picked out, I will play for you a clip from possibly the first rock climbing movie. This one is called El Capitan. A Sierra Club Tote Book, The Climber's Guide to the High Sierra by Steve Roper. Sierra Club Books, San Francisco, 1976. From the introduction. Climbing history. Indians were the first climbers of the High Sierra, as has been shown by arrowhead fragments found high on many peaks, including Mount Whitney. But the Indians left no records, and neither did the Spaniards, early military expeditions, prospectors, or sheep herders who followed. However, it is not likely that many major summits were reached during these early days, for as we all know, there are relatively few reasons to stand atop a mountain. Skipping forwards a bit. In the next few years, many travelers came to the mountains to see the great canyons and big trees which had been gaining notoriety. One of these visitors was John Muir, who arrived in Yosemite Valley in 1868 for a brief stay. The following year, he became a supervisor of sheep herders, a job that left him much free time to study the landscape. During the next few years, Muir became a self-educated expert on the ecology of the Sierra. While in Tuolumne Meadows in 1869, he made the first ascent of the sharp and beautiful Cathedral Peak. This involved some difficult climbing of a nature not yet seen in this country. Although his mountaineering exploits are not as well known as his later geological theories, descriptive writings, and long struggles to exclude sheep and lumbermen from his beloved mountains, Muir's solo ascents of Mount Ritter, Mount Whitney, and many other peaks, mentioned only obliquely in his writings, place him among the first rank of early American mountaineers. From a short section called History of the Guidebook. A wave of anti-guidebook feeling has surfaced in the past few years. Spearheaded by a small elite group, the sentiment seems to be that a guidebook speeds the ruination of a climbing area. There are many differing opinions on this topic, and it is obvious that, in addition to guidebooks, added leisure time, climbing schools, mass publicity, organized outings, and the new interest in ecology have all hasted the infiltration of our mountains by people who shouldn't be there. As one result of this anti-guidebook feeling, some climbers have been reluctant to part with information about new routes, thinking that this will stem the hordes, at least for a few years. In some ways, I sympathize with this sentiment and have made only a half-hearted attempt to pry this information out of climbers who feel strongly about the subject. Therefore, there are a number of routes which have been done but which do not appear herein. From What is a Peak? The 1972 Guidebook to the High Sierra was somewhat controversial in that several hundred new peaks were added over the previous edition's total. These peaks didn't suddenly grow during those 7 years, nor did the map makers go wild. Many of the new peaks were simply ends of spurs, bumps on a ridge, or sub-summits of other mountains. Most of the peaks had as their first ascenders those who, in a former day, would have been called explorers, but now could only be thought of as peak baggers, interested primarily in trudging endlessly over heaps of stones, building cairns, and inserting their business cards into specially designed canisters, especially carried for this purpose. But perhaps I am being too harsh. They're having their fun. From route descriptions. Approach information has been radically shortened. The maps of the Sierra are generally very accurate and will get the climber close to his objective. Unless the information is crucial, I decline to tell prospective Sierra climbers where to cross streams, how to avoid a brushy patch, or on which side a rock band must be turned. Technical rock climbing descriptions are often very brief also for the same purpose. Let's get some adventure back into climbing. From regulations. The Sierra Nevada is a small range with many millions of people nearby, and in the past decade, a remarkable population explosion has hit the backcountry. The John Muir Trail has begun to look like a highway, and several hundred backpackers can sometimes be found within a mile or two of a popular spot. Campsites are becoming denuded of wood, coliform bacteria are appearing in streams, and the atmosphere of solitude, once prevalent, has vanished. From safety. Summer storms in the high country can be uncomfortable, but they are rarely a dangerous problem for the observant mountaineer. When towering cumulus clouds are present, it is best not to be on summits or ridges. If lightning should be striking close at hand, get away from ridges and projections, squat, and either pray or scream imprecations, whichever is your style. Solo climbing is not dangerous per se, and many of the Sierra's finest climbers did their thing alone. But it should be remembered that such incidents as a broken leg, which would be relatively minor when with someone, are uniformly fatal when you are alone and no one finds you. There are wonderful advantages to climbing solo. No one will roll rocks on you, no one will upset your pace, and the solitude is something special. If the rewards are great, so then are the hazards, and neophytes should be counseled to avoid climbing alone until they have gained more than a modicum of knowledge about their chosen environment. Finally, from a section called Fires, Horses, Ducks, and Other Small Matters. Small piles of rocks, called ducks, cairns, or stonemen, have become an eyesore all over the high country. One time I was behind a pack of Boy Scouts who were ascending toward Gabbett Pass. There were about 20 of them, and as they drifted in separate packlets over high meadows and gentle talus fields, they built such sturdy and so abundant a supply of ducks that it took me an extra hour and an extra mile to destroy them all. I had better things to do, and I would hate to be thought of as a duck pervert, but I genuinely shudder each time I see those little piles of stones, which someone has so kindly placed to help me on my way. What arrogance the duck builder has. Does he really believe that he has found the only possible route? Does he believe that he has checked out all alternate routes? Does he think we can't find our own way? The final section about the ducks, or cairns if you will, is a particularly poignant one to me, and I believe it gets at the crux of the very questions I have about rock climbing in America. After all, isn't Steve Roper's guidebook but another duck or cairn along the road to what is presently rock climbing in America today? Each time that we push our agenda, whether it's one I agree with, such as conservation, or one I bemoan, such as capitalism or consumerism or profit mongering, each time we do push our agenda for rock climbing in America, we do build a cairn which we expect others to follow. And perhaps, as the flight of the bird you are watching now indicates, rock climbing in America is not about following the path of others, but about forging your own. And perhaps that is the future and the past and what we have to look forward to. Pretty good movie. El Capitan, a famous piece of rock climbing in America. I feel that a further word deserves to be said about Steve Roper's book, the movie you're watching, rock climbing in America in general. The pertinent question seems to be one of motives. Why are we climbing? To what end? To what purpose? Steve Roper poses the question in his introduction, claiming that, as we all know, there are relatively few reasons for climbing a mountain. Why do we climb at all? And what are the results of our actions as climbers? This seems to be of utmost importance to the task at hand here, the creation of this movie. Those motives and reasons seem to have changed over time, seem to continue to change over time. And I believe it is our duty to turn an inward eye upon our motives, to see if we can't better understand them, to see if we can't better perhaps analyze them and see if they are really in concert with our morals, our beliefs, and our opinions on what matters in this world. In the case of rock climbing in America, I have found that what matters to me, what I care about what's in concert with my morals, is a celebration of adventure, a celebration of mountains, and an attempt to preserve both. I believe that as climbing becomes more and more commercialized, both of those things run further afield and become more and more at risk. But perhaps my fears are telling, and perhaps it is really myself that has changed. Perhaps it is less the fact that those things are at risk in rock climbing in America, but they are in fact at risk in myself. I can't say that I know for sure, but I suppose that's the point of this movie, is to try and find that out. Why do I rock climb in America? Why do any of us? You know, it occurs to me that I should at least apologize a little bit for the format or style or nature of this film. I know it's going to be incredibly repetitive, this rock climbing in America idea. I don't really know what to say about it, except that, you know, history repeats itself. It's kind of like talking about rock climbing in America. I mean, I feel like I'm in a hall of mirrors, so to speak. You know, there's in each moment of rock climbing in America, in each furthering, in each evolution, there's a mirrored replica of the past. You know, rock climbing in America stands upon itself over and over again. Constantly evolving, constantly changing and shifting styles, but it's always at its heart what it once was. That never changes, and that reflection will always be present. And for whatever reason, I suppose, I've become obsessed with this goal of finding out what that heart is. What is at the heart of rock climbing in America? And maybe we have to look deeper and deeper into the present picture to discover what that center truly is. I don't know. We should probably do more interviews. I think more interviews would be good. Less me talking. Yeah, something like that. Good scenery. lizard t-shirts, things like that. Can't really beat it. The ripples on the water, the peaks, the sunset looking east. It's as good as it gets. As good as it can be.